FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
So Global Voices started in 2004 in December with a workshop at Harvard, at a conference at Harvard. There were about 40 bloggers from all over the world, and they all gathered in a room to talk about what blogging is like in different countries. So the first one here is actually from Telegraph. And about 5 months later, we decided, well, let's do something more than just have a conference and then, die out. So we started a website with different editors and authors. And each person, each editor or author from a country would be a window into their countries or their communities or their language's blogosphere. So we have someone who writes from Argentina who says, okay, this week, here's what bloggers in Argentina are talking about. And we'll add extra context for an international audience. People will translate, so bloggers in Argentina, obviously, the majority of them write in Spanish. So Jorge, who is our author there, will translate from Spanish into English. Then on the Global Voices website, let me pull it up. Many of those posts then get translated from English into up to 15 to 20 other languages. You can see up here, Global Voices in all of these different languages. So that's the basic model. It's worked really well. One example is I guess this was last year, Google Street View was implemented in Tokyo, and there was a huge privacy concern. Now, Google is an American company that went into Japan, and they have lots of money, and they have contacts and whatnot, so they're able to do their Google Street View and put in their service over there without any problem. But if it were not for blogging and these participatory media, then those living in Japan would not be able to protest against Google going in there and setting up the program. But what ended up happening is a popular Japanese blogger was very upset and said there are big cultural differences in how privacy is perceived in America and how privacy is perceived in Japan. So he laid out a very thoughtful blog post in Japanese. Now, because Global Voices exists, Chris and Hanako translated this blog post from Japanese into English, posted it up on Global Voices. It then got translated into at least 10 other languages, and it got spread onto Slashdot. So we're one node in a much larger media ecology of all of these different networks. And this message just got spread out all over the internet all of a sudden. And so people started talking about the United States and talked about their perception of privacy in the US versus Japan, but also the perception of the Japanese of the perception of the Americans. So it went back and forth like this quite a bit. So there's this huge conversation in the English language blogosphere, mostly in America. Then Chris says, well, that's kind of interesting. Actually, it wasn't Chris, it was a Japanese blogger who then translated all of that into Japanese. Then the Japanese blogger said, wait a minute, we have to talk about this. So that was how the conversation happened, going back and forth. And that's the basic model of how it should happen, and how Global Voices wants to serve as a bridge between these different blogospheres that are oftentimes isolated by language or by region or by topic, too.